Sir Manjunath, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Kishore, sir, good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Namaste, sir. Clear my
Yes, sir.
voice.
Yeah, so the session will be started at 2:30, sir.
Fine.
Yeah.
So could you try separately keeping the video instead of inside the, because I shared the video also separately, the WhatsApp.
Yes, of course, we are recording this complete session. We are going to record. So
If you could try playing that as a trial now, because sometimes from inside PowerPoint it would play.
okay, sir. Okay.
So about
Okay.
5G.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Gauda, sir, can we start, sir?
Yes, sir. Another 5 minutes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, 5 minutes ಇದೆ.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್. ಓಕೆ ಸರ್ ಏನೋ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ರೆಕಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಅಂತ.
ರೆಕಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ.
Can you please try if it is playing, sir? I have attached in the WhatsApp also.
Whatever the recording you shared, no, sir, on 5G?
Yes, that you can try it in the.
Sir, it is playing, sir.
Because instead of from inside PowerPoint, sometimes it doesn't get triggered. Separately,
Yes, sir,
you can access.
Okay.
Right, sir.
Parallelly, let me try from my laptop also. If there is a echo, I will mute one of them. I will start from my laptop also, just for additional.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. Do you hear my voice?
Yes, sir. We can.
Okay, that is good.
Yes, sir.
There is a little echo.
Yes, sir.
Do you hear the sound of my fan, sir? Any background noise? I can switch off the fan.
Sir, now your voice is clear, sir. There is no issue.
Okay, sure. Couple of minutes, that's all.
Yeah. Got it, sir. Can I start, sir?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, participants. Good afternoon, Kishore, sir. So, this is Dr. Bhanu Prakash, working as an assistant professor in Department of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering, BMS IT and M. And it's my privilege to go through the profile of A.T. Kishore, sir, who has worked in telecom sector for more than 3 decades. Just I'll go through the profile of A.T. Kishore, sir. Be it is in any government of India, Niti Aayog initiatives, such as the ATL Mentor of Change, Smart India Hackathon as an evaluator, and mentor, or in an IAF profile as an aeronautical engineer electronics. Sri Kishore sir brings with him over 3 decades of tremendous knowledge and expertise from various domains such as telecommunications, both wireless 2G, 3G, 4G, and even 5G, and wireline SDH, DWDM, GPON, and his more than 10,000 hours of hard hands-on work for Bharat Net, India most widely grown fiber network, regarding with which our beloved PM made a mention in 15th August 2020 speech also. So during his long illustrious career, Sri Kishore sir contributed for various telecom service providers and equipment manufacturers networks, such as those made from Bell Lab Innovations, Tata Group, Reliance, and Samsung, ZTE, Ericsson, later even Alcatel Lucent, from where he received not only CEO commendation for leadership qualities in LD for global customer technical training, but also technical support services as part of Lucent worldwide services team as DGM. Having served long term in Alcatel-Lucent and graduated internally as a general manager accredited, he received LSA from IPRC Bangalore Manayata campus. So he has contributed for deep studies of 3GPP studies during his role as head and director of 3G Network Solutions Private Limited, and served national and international missions such as MEA India Technical Economic Cooperation and PMKY of NSDC, with a leader in EduTech and its services company as its principal. Now he is a founder, chair, and CEO of startup that has received a platinum award from India's Achievers Forum for fastest emerging tech company from startup space for 2020. He is a part of Gout of India Bureau of Indian Standards TED 14.1 as head of WG02 and WG04 to build standards for UAV subsystem standardization for India. He guides several other companies to succeed with his vast knowledge and experience and expertise, and connects them with likes of MATLAB, Launchpad, Avenues, and Linux Edge OS. He is a senior member of IEEE and participating in standards development of IEEE P1931.1 and on executive committee membership of several societies such as IEEE PES, IEEE ComSoc, IEEE CAS, and IEEE AESS, IEEE RAS, IEEE IS. Many international education institutions, both private and government owned, have him as a regular speaker for FDPs and seminar talks, keynotes, and part of their efforts to streamline their curriculum and BOS and in industry advisory capacity. He has given speeches in several international seminars such as Session Initiation Protocol, International IEEE, International ANTS 2016, 17, 18, 19, and going to be in panels of IEEE ANTS 2020 organized at IIT Delhi during December 2020. I feel it's my privilege, sir. I have gone through your profile, and I hope today's session will be interesting session, especially in terms of many networking aspects that you are going to cover today. And over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And to appreciate there is some echo, let me avoid it. So
Sir, shall I
the
share the
green
PPT?
communication, yeah, please do that.
Yeah, yeah.
The choice of green communication is very well thought over subject. I appreciate the leadership of the institute, Dr. Raju Hazare and Professor Manjunath Gowda. It's because if you look at nature, our cosmos is an excellent example of green systems. Our life on this planet is because of plants. They nurture and then they are because of which the animals survive and we survive along with that. They absorb light and generate energy out of it. So if you look at the cosmos, the stars and planets, the greenest technology inbuilt in them is gravity, and so they achieve things of what humans can emulate. This is one of the inspirations in my talk that I like to highlight. So please go through these slides, ma'am. Okay. In this talk, I would first of all talk about a new technology, new to some of you. Maybe you have been working on it already. Those of you working in the drone clubs, for those of you who are working in the drone clubs, yes, I could suppress the echo. Um, this is not a new technology. Most of the campuses already have, like Dr. Seema in BMSIT already worked on some of the waypoints, and students have accomplished some results, and I happened to listen to her speech. So many of your campuses, including SRM, Chennai, or many others, they have their own drone club. So for them, those of you, it would not be a kind of a deviation. It would be very interesting for you to have this concept. Would be easy for you to relate the drone in a totally new perspective. Normally, you tend to think of a drone as a small utility object, like children purchase by 10,000 rupees. There is a Mumbai-based startup that is called Drona Aviation, and you can order it on Amazon or Flipkart. You can get it to home in 3 days and start playing with it. But that doesn't have what I am going to communicate. This is about green communication. So my proposition is that how to use a UAV, because that small drone that you will get by ordering, giving less than 10,000 rupees, that won't perform these roles, but there is a possibility to use a UAV as a communication device. So when I say communication, without communication, no drone can actually ever work, irrespective of the topic of my discussion. So we require a communication to handle a drone. That means you need a communication system as a ground control station to control the movement of the drone. That is the requirement part of every drone to exist. My value proposition or my theme is entirely different. It is not about that basic requirement of running a drone. I'm going to talk an entirely new personality of a UAV, which probably you have not thought about. That is to substitute a tower. That is to act as if this tiny UAV, which you think is having a very limited flying time, and which can just only for children to play around, but given all the infrastructure that is required, it can act as a tower, and that is the value proposition that I would drive you through the 1.5 hour discussion and question answers. So my value proposition is to positioning of a unmanned aircraft system or autonomous vehicle, also known as a drone in common parlance, as a wireless base station, which you see it around. When you walk around, you find lot of towers of Airtel Reliance. So that is the value proposition I'm going to discuss. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, so essentially, we should start with what are the components of a UAV. It comes with some rotors, fixed wing or multi-copter. It's a quadcopter. Fixed wing is something like an aircraft in a small form. In fact, there are drones which are bigger than the biggest aircrafts that you ever know, like jumbo jets or Gajaraj in Indian Air Force, IL-76 Russian make. Or there is one thing called Global Hawk, which is even more sturdier and more bigger than the Boeings and Airbuses that you know. So this industry is parallel to civil aviation, and it has a life of more than civil aviation. It actually started ahead of curve compared to civil because of humans research. They were all used in the world wars also. So it has a rotors and it has motors, and the rotors are also known as propellers, and you have electronic speed controllers. There is a flight controller, autopilot, navigational electronics, and to make this move in the sky, you have a built-in battery, and so you have a landing gear and a fuselage. The entire body is known as fuselage. So this is the basic concept of a UAV, but going forward, you have inertial measurement units or GPS systems and so many other things like autonomous dependent surveillance broadcast, like typically for a civil aviation, there is 1090 megahertz wherein every flying object will inform to the neighborhood that about its profile of kinetic energy, its velocity, direction, and then speed, and then destination, all these data, so that just in case something bad should have happened to that aircraft in flight, others should know there can be an impending danger. And also if it has to land somewhere which was not its destination, we should be able to pick up the debris and do analysis. So for that, ADS-B is one of the aftermath of MH370, the one which flight that suddenly went missing. So that technology is used in the regular civil aviation, However, people have also envisioned that for serious purpose UAVs, not the ones that children use it for their learning like 10,000 ones, but the mission critical application type of UAVs, they should have the characteristics similar to what civil aircrafts have like ADS-B, so that you should be able to know its whereabouts. So there are some other components beyond what you can see in this visual now. Yeah, kindly go to the next page. So you can actually click on that. It will move, two of the four wings will move in one direction, another two will move in other direction. Double click in the body there, it will fly. Just click that in the presentation mode, it will start moving. It's an animation. Okay, no problem. If it doesn't play, then this is going to be a video, but I think you can play it. You can stop the presentation and play the video. And just let me give the introduction first, and then you play the video. Yes. So introduction topic of that is we are going to first start with a 5-minute video, which will set the context of how UAVs can perform the role of communication systems by illustrating the high altitude platform systems. So kindly play that video now, share that video separately than part of the PowerPoint. Thank you. And as that is coming up from organizers, so kindly share that. Now I am in the outside, the sharing has been disabled. I think you are trying to bring up the video. So if there are meanwhile any questions from the audience, you can just preempt and then maybe prepone some questions. I see around 30-40 attendees now. So India has, as of yesterday, they have come out. Prime Minister also mentioned about there is a new drone regulation that has come up. Dr. Banu, you could play that video. Dr. Banu, can I share my screen otherwise? Okay, okay. Yeah, I see something coming up there.
Sir?
Shall I share, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have some problem while
Okay,
sharing.
right.
Okay.
I would.
Okay.
No problem. I will share and then just give me ability to share the presentation, entire screen and the media. Okay, right. So, right, this is my presentation, and do you see my video, my presentation
Yes,
slide?
sir. Yes, sir. I can see PPT, sir. Your PPT.
Okay, right, 1 second. Okay, let me see. Okay, in that case, I would take from my local machine. Okay, do you all see this my screen now?
Hi everyone.
We can hear
We
you.
all happy being part of this 5G World Forum 2020 organized by IEEE ComSoc Bangalore chapter this time. I'm Dr. M. Rangarao, Professor in ECE, Pottisriramlu Chalivadi Mallikarjunaravu College of Engineering and Technology, Vijayawada. Today I'm going to give demo on performance optimization UAV 5G SATCOM. The artificial satellite rotate in Earth orbits. There are three types of Earth orbits. The first one is geostationary, which is at 36,000 kilometers. The second one is medium Earth orbit, which is at 20,000 kilometers. The third one is low Earth orbit, which is at 2,000 kilometers. Weather and communication satellites are placed in geostationary orbit, whereas navigation and special satellites meant for monitoring a particular area are placed in MEO, whereas scientific satellites are placed in LEO. One way of classifying orbits is by altitude. Low Earth orbit starts just above the top of the atmosphere, while the geostationary orbit begins about 1/10 of the way to the moon. The height of the orbit or distance between the satellite and Earth's surface determine how quickly the satellites move around the Earth. An Earth orbiting satellite motion is mostly controlled by Earth's gravity. The main advantage of the 5G are greater speed in transmission, decreased round trip delay, lower latency, fast response, beamforming, power efficiency, network slicing, IoT implements. Satellite access in 5G, roaming between terrestrial and satellite networks, broadcast and multicast with satellite overlay, IoT with satellite network, temporary use of satellite component, optimal routing or steering over a satellite, satellite trans-border service connectivity, global satellites overlay, indirect connection through a 5G satellite access network, 5G fixed backhaul between NR and the 5G core, 5G moving platform backhaul, 5G premises. Most scientific satellites are placed in LEO at a height of 160 to 2000 kilometers. These satellites are launched by organizations like ISRO, NASA, etc. The orbit radius is around 8,400 kilometers. Its velocity is 6.9 kilometers per second. Orbit period is 2 hours 7 minutes. Round trip delay is 133 milliseconds.
You are now going to see the animation of the concept, which would make it easier for you to grasp.
UAVs can play a vital role in 5G communication. UAV is placed at a height of 1 kilometer from the Earth's surface. Apart from regular applications like weather forecast, disaster management, agricultural application, shipping and delivery, the UAS has application in satellite 5G communication. The atmospheric satellites, often called as atmosats, this atmosat is placed at a height of 20 kilometers, which is very much below the LEO. This satellite will be launched with helium balloons. As it is very much close to the Earth, its latency is very low. Data can be transferred at higher speeds. Round trip delay is less. The core link between UAV to atmospheric satellite and UAV to ground station is 5G. As I told, these atmospheric satellites are at 20 kilometers height from the above ground surface. Its orbit radius is 6,400 kilometers. Its velocity is 1.9 kilometers per second, and orbit period is around 1 hour 25 minutes, and the round trip delay is 133 microseconds. In countries like India, satellite infrastructure can also congestion in already overloaded network and thus improve the quality of service provided by mobile networks. They can be integrated into 5G systems and take advanced IoT applications to regions that are beyond the reach of terrestrial networks. The satellite systems provide good quality broadband internet technology in urban, semi-urban, remote and mountain regions. It can also provide on oceans and islands and even to those in sky. A constellation of about 150 satellites will be sufficient to cover most of the developing countries whose internet demand is growing rapidly. In business perspective, these satellites will offer higher penetration rates. Astrom, a startup at IISc Bangalore, is planning accordingly. 17 Astroms HTS, which acts as floating rotors, will orbit the Earth in the LEO. It is possible to provide 50 Mbps to home users and 400 Mbps for business users. ISRO worked with Airport Authority of India to establish a Gagan, a space-based augmentation system for aircraft navigation using GPS. A regional navigation system, NAVIC, has also been established recently to provide an exclusive positioning and navigation system for India under its own control. With 5G and UAV could make its ADS-B much more accurate, and future release of UAVs would use a NAVIC for their support. Our proposal is integrating of 5G, UAV and Atmosat. The advantage of our proposal is decreasing the latency by using 5G in satellite communication in such a way to help in making several applications more effective. Using Atmosat, the round trip delay is reduced. Thank you for giving opportunity.
Okay, now we will get back to our presentation. Is this presentation visible, Professor? No?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now I will proceed. So I would move in a slide, not in presentation, but let me just navigate them like this. So I'm going to now introduce India's efforts of how to take this UAV forward from a standards perspective. So whatever you have seen is an aspirational statement. IEEE in a world forum, we have presented a very aspirational idea that is also being pursued by startup companies. However, what I'm going to discuss is already what is existing and what efforts Indian government has made in terms of unmanned autonomous systems. And in the context of green communication, if we achieve this one critical bottleneck that this technology could have, that is how do you avoid collision between two flying objects? You know, road accidents and the car very much you can relate. There it is a manual and then manual errors. Here it can be again a pilot who is in the loop, but standing on the ground and the UAV is in the sky. And so two of the pilots can make two of their drones collide unintentionally. So how do you avoid that? That is one of the things to solve for a green communication through UAVs. And we would also relate with the 5G and evolution into 6G, wherein non-terrestrial and terrestrial technologies are being integrated in order to get the results that we intend to achieve in green communication technologies. So a few slides are what I presented as a member of a Bureau of Indian Standards as a part of a team developing standards for the unmanned autonomous vehicles. So the reason to present this is to let you know that if you have interest in green communication with reference to UAV, you are welcome to join us in the Bureau of Indian Standards. And we have these kind of, in fact, we added two more things. One is agricultural UAV, another is relating to anti-UAV, like the drone which were hit on some of our Indian establishments. So the rogue drones, those kind of systems are also being pursued. And so I would talk about some of the challenges that we wish to see addressed before the green communication through UAV can be implemented as the theme of our topic today. So you see here, sky is three-dimensional as opposed to road that is restricted to. So in a road, you have already road is fixed. There is no flexibility there. But in case of UAV, even that road is floating, and so there's more. I mean, both ways we can think about it. There is more flexibility to avoid a crash, or it is more likely probability to make a crash. Also, it all depends on the kinetic energy, velocity, and mutual relative excuse me, relative speed of the two nearby UAVs. So a bit of creative thinking of adopting the road rules, and then also make a benefit from the advantage that you have to fly to avoid collision. On the road, you cannot fly above another car to avoid crashing because there's already a lot of vehicles all around. You can't do those kind of things on a road, but in the sky, you can change your altitude and avoid a collision if that maneuver is already pre-programmed. Probability of mid-air collision is rare, but non-zero. There is always a possibility. In fact, in India, there was a Cherokee Dadri Kazakhstan aeroplane hit one outgoing Saudi Arabia aircraft. So that resulted in mid-air collision of two transport aeroplanes. So that is a possibility. To avoid that, what we require is a technology, as I present in this paper. We should be able to do detect, sense, and track, locate, and classify, identify the moving objects. And we have to mitigate in case they are going to collide, or we have to defeat the intention of those who intend to collide with you if it is like a warlike situation. I'm talking about a civilian aviation, but still there can be certain situations wherein you have to fight a civilian battle as well. So we have to do these navigations and methods to, I mean, all these approaches, that is to have all this happen, you need establishment of infrared cameras, electro-optical radars, and you have electronic surveillance measures. Acoustic also, acoustic is sound. By observing sound, you should be able to come to some conclusion like, Doppler effect and how bats reach their destination. So we need to use a bit of our knowledge of mathematics and physics. So if you talk about transmitter, you can have a MIMO antenna. There are multiple transmissions going on. And you have one sender and a receiver, and reflected waves come back to the transmitted location. And there is a certain echo there. And then there is a multi-path scenario. If a UAV is communicating, it will communicate with a building or with the trees, and then they may again have a multi-path effect as it is shown here in that visual there. And the UAV may have a line of sight with some of the towers. So what you foresee is, in the near future, that is when from now, let us say 365 days, we would see the telecom companies establishing a separate department, because globally there is a global UAV traffic management association. It is known as a GUTMA, GUTMA, and that is also acting closely with the GSM association globally, and they are very aggressively, as we speak, studying how to adopt the wireless communication for this flying system. So far, this use case is not emphasized because telcos will begin to see a lot of revenue from that, because you have now Amazon, Flipkart, and all the companies which applied, including SpiceJet and others. Many companies, Throttle Aerospace, they have applied for license to do the drone as a medium for delivering the goods and items. Therefore, there is a business opportunity the telcos can now look at and prepare their infrastructure accordingly. And that is what is we are also highly excited about at the Bureau of Indian Standard. And uh, we have, as the previous Professor Rangarao's talk recorded, video recorded, mentioned about Gagan, that is the collaboration between the GPS and for the aviation systems. And also there is a NAVIC Indian constellation, that is the satellites like LEO, MEO, GEO, as mentioned by Professor Rangarao. So we have a Indian constellation for navigation, and we got a 4G wireless known as LTE, and 5G, 6G are aimed at even taking the non-terrestrial into their consideration to help in the beyond visual line of sight operations, which is in line with what Government of India has a concept known as digital sky. This is the Indian government's UAV traffic management system. According to Digital Sky, if you want to fly a UAV, especially if it is above 250 grams, they register, and that register is known as NPNT. That means no permission, comma, no takeoff. It means if you don't have a permission, then you are not allowed to take off. It is called NPNT register. So if you record that I intend to use my flight, its weight is more than 250 gram, and this is the date and time and location. This is the purpose, and you will get a UAV acknowledgement number from government, and you are allowed to use it. So these are some of the operational things that one should know. Leave alone for the green communication, even for normal operations of a UAV, you need this kind of approvals and permissions. And we have something called a radio based hams are there, the high altitude systems, and we have got WLANs, because some people are amateur radio people, they are called ham people. And there are high frequency and ultra high frequency Bluetooth, and all these are the various technologies which can be used for sensitivity about location of a moving object and share that information to others so that they don't collide. So we have some smartphone apps also which can tell us so that ground control of most of the commercially sold drones, they are on the mobile phone. It is just like an app, and you can run the drone. That is for just for initial learning purposes. So we can now think about additional things in addition to what you get on your mobile as an app to control a drone. That is, you need to scale it to the worldwide. When you think about 10, 15 people playing the drone today, as I speak, this very sporadic, just like, kite flying on 15th of January by Indian children. But when you want to think about millions of drones, just like cars on the street, you need to have systems in place to avoid collision, and also what is the purpose of their movement, and what are the communications required to ensure their safe mobility, and how to scale up those operations. So and applications of this in drones in military, and there is a thought process to have altimeter. That means you need to measure the latitude, longitude, and altitude so that you can assess its real profile in the sky. And by 2025 to 2035, 10 years time frame, it is envisioned that Indian ecosystem also is going to come up in a big way to manufacture large scale drones. So between now and 2025, a little bit of efforts of making electronics and body and other research like 3D printing, it is evolving now, and many researchers are aggressively working on these possibilities. So I would look at some of the challenges like a lidar. There is a, just like a radar, there is a light that is being used for detection and ranging, and also sound, sonar, and visual observations. Image processing, then there is a detect and avoid. I also mentioned about ADS-B, that is autonomous dependent surveillance broadcast, that is localized and edge analyzed, real time and on site. Integrated constrained civil aviation and UAS for seamless interwoven digital sky. So what is required is that there is a need to develop air traffic management. There is a air traffic control whenever you take off, say, Kempagowda International Airport, Bangalore, domestic or international. You have an air traffic controller tower there, and after a few kilometers they hand over to some other station, and that is how they manage the aviation. And we need to think about all those types of air traffic controllers. And then for our low altitude flying of UAV, there is a new school of thought which you have not seen yet. That is something like your building top can become a skyport, or like a small helipad. So potentially there will be millions of new such helipads will come, or those small airports which have not been used, let us say in Bangalore, HL airport is only for testing purposes. We can actually allow the use of the UAVs, and that is how the new integrated scenario would be for an integrated air traffic management, where you combine the civil air traffic with the UAV, and that is where all the green communication context will come. How do you utilize the communication technologies for coordinating the civil aviation and this UAV traffic, and also achieve the purposes, as I mentioned, like a 5G wireless communication through the UAV, to act as a tower and substitute for the global warming scenario. Basically, green means that if you can invent a technology which will consume less electrical power, occupy less space, that is good, that is greener. So satellite with its two-dimensional technology, like its electronics is very less. It is printed using thin films. I have worked in defense labs in thin film hybrid microelectronics. So satellites are designed to be lightweight. Therefore, by virtue of being lightweight and then accomplishing many tasks in small form factor, they are more greener than the existing other technologies which consume huge power and also occupy the real estate. And for cooling, you require air conditioning, and that is also more of an energy demanding activity. So okay, and coming back to our UAE scenario, there is something as a green zone, yellow zone, red zones. 80% of Indian landscape is green zones. Some areas like defense or security areas or aircraft movement operational zones, like any area beyond 5 kilometers, it is a dangerous zone. A drone should not be seen there. There were cases when the drones were spotted near to Heathrow Airport or some other places in United Kingdom, and stalling their thousands and thousands, almost like 1 lakh passengers for hours and days together in the airports, because they did not know how to fix that issue of the drone being spotted near the runways. That having been the case, in future you might have a scenario where both coexist. It means government has opened up, DGCA has opened up a scenario where drones and the regular traffic and air traffic can coexist, and they can give a time, let us say lunch break for certain air traffic. So for 1 hour there is no real flights moving. At that time, these drones will be crossing the runways and start taking off. And that way you can have an integrated air traffic system wherein you can allow the civil air traffic as well as the drones traffic to coexist in future. So that is where our knowledge of these drone technologies and communications to make them work together will be very helpful for the research community, including your own projects that you are currently interested to pursue. So then we need actually electrical vehicular technology like batteries and those things. And there is something called perching. Perching is like operating a drone like a bird, making it sit somewhere like a bird sitting on top of a tree. That is called perching operation. And recharging of a drone battery whenever it is depleted, you might send a robotic thing or some other system, autonomous system. So when you are not in front of the drone, it is in middle of its journey, and suddenly its battery requires attention. It may land safely on some place and use some pocket money which you loaded into it like a token currency, and it can do the transaction and get that thing done and get going again. And so these are some of the smart energy. In fact, a drone also can have a solar panel on top of it. There is a Christian and Bernard, two pilots, have taken a small plane with very big wings, and it went around the planet Earth with solar powered battery and not using the conventional air traffic fuel. Therefore, future of all these green technologies would be to use the solar power. That is a smart energy solution. And tethering. This is something that you may not have heard about so far. Tethering is a concept of connecting a wire, but for Indian kids, that is the natural thing to know. They fly a kite with a thread connecting to the flying, made with paper with a tail, and that is the idea, that tethering of a drone. So you connect a power cable to the drone, and it need not fly into kilometers. It can just stay there, just like so when people are playing cricket, there's a stadium, four corners of the cricket stadium, there's the floodlights. So your drone with a tethered wire is acting like a small floodlight, standing there, but not really standing on the feet, but standing by virtue of its ability to fly, but not flying freely in the sense going anywhere, because it is cabled with a tether. and that tether is giving it power and also power line communication. And that is the very interesting aspect wherein Indian manufacturers can look up to making tethered UAVs and lot of market. If you are interested, our own company has tied up with a non-disclosure agreement with certain projects wherein we need people interested in the tethering operations, developing a cable with the ability to pump 100 amperes, 48 volt for 100 meters or 120 meters from the ground control station. And that's one research project we have, which we can give it to the college community if you come forward, wherein you apply where power electronics and other technologies like a power line communications skills to make that happen, for which you will be compensated. Your college will get money for doing that work. So infrastructure, drones, accidental falling could be handled with a priori safety nets. So you can actually have 4 drones bringing one net, something like there is a story. The group of birds and one person who wanted to catch the bird kept one net there and put some food on top. And one world of there is a group of birds which already decided to fly away, but one world bird fell prey to that. And how they managed to rescue that bird is take the net away. All the birds have lifted the net. So now coming back to technology, so whenever there is one falling bird like a drone, you can take it in a net and then take it to safety. So you can actually create a net in the sky which is coming to underneath that falling drone, and allow that to safely land on the net and not on the ground and avoid collisions. So these are some technologies that are evolving, and unless those things are supported by a lot of communication technology, we will not be able to achieve those results. So this is what a award-winning infrastructure, which the NASA has completed a study known as a UAV traffic management, where the whatever topic that we have taken up like green communication. So drones getting support from satellites, that is green communication, and drones acting like a communication provider is like being a harbinger, like rather than taking the support from telecom network for their survival, you are now coming and solving the problem of, in India we have problems like call drops and the telecom networks are always congested. Here we are talking about solving the problem than being part of the problem, and that is what is expected in the green communication theme that we are discussing. So UAVs also have another realm, that the battlefield. So we may see in near future all our militaries across the world will have a new department which is meant for the use case of unmanned aviation combat vehicles. So you have the soldiers here and they are taking help of these combat vehicles, and there is a forward operational base and they have air operations, air to air tactical sub network and vehicle based mobile and there is another network here, ad hoc network. So vehicular dismount sub network. So what you see here is an infrastructure where the UAV is used as a combat vehicle. So this is also one of the challenges that as a researcher, academician, you should be able to keep in the mind when you build green communications around the UAV to solve the applications of being used in the military use cases. And the key considerations for designing a UAV, I will run through the steps. One is that if you want to make a green technology, always try to miniaturize. Something like a satellite is an excellent example. And the smaller, the better always. Design something very small. So by using thin film hybrid microelectronics, like Professor Raju Hazare is working on nanotubes, carbon nanostructures. These are the new approaches, and electromagnetic interference and compatibility sources and sinks and interfaces. You should know who are the interfering sources and eliminate them. You should have long duration. Endurance means whether the drone would fly for 30 minutes or 1 hour or 2 hours, 6 hours, 24 hours or 7 days. Once launched, an aircraft needs to come back to any airport within the same day. Otherwise, it is considered gone. It is crashed. But a drone can stay in the sky for 7 days or even more. In the case of our green tower, our alternative to the wireless towers, it can stay there for years, just like a high altitude platform system, like a tiny little satellite around 25-kilometer range. You know, recently Sir Richard Branson took his manned mission to the weightlessness. They went about around 80 kilometers and come back. Similarly, Jeff Bezos went to weightlessness. So you begin to see that gravity-less environments around above the earth around kilometers range only, not even have to touch 100 kilometers. Below that you will get all weightlessness. We are all scared of ocean, but actually oceans are very simple things to deal. If you go down earth 20 kilometers, you touch the bed of the oceans. So if you go up into the sky, you see the weightlessness. So very simple mathematics. Anywhere above 20 kilometers, below 20 kilometers, you achieve miracles. So you have to make products for autonomous systems to get new results which the normal ground does not achieve. So endurance means when you can have a platform like a green communication UAV, that means using tethered method or by high altitude platform system. Tethered means with a cable on the ground, and that can sustain for any number of days if you want. Then if it is launched like a tiny satellite, it can stay there, just like our international space station is there in the sky for last 20 years and always manned inside. So at least 4 to 7 astronauts, cosmonauts are always there right from the 20 years before, and that's happening. So like that, we can have a satellite like drone which can stay there for long endurance and provide communication. And places like where like Philippines or where conventional fiber optic cables are the real towers, like a terrestrial networks like cellular tower cannot reach. In those places you can keep a drone. But to make it happen, the remaining 40 slides are going to discuss that, another 35 slides. How do you make that happen? Because on the ground you have a fiber cable connecting your tower and taking it to the core and then providing you services. But in the sky, who is going to connect a fiber cable to it? So you don't have a fiber cable, but still it should have a connection to the core. And in fact, the core should coexist with the sky-based UAV. So it should have a collapsed architecture where the RAN and core, radio access network, and a core network coexist together. And that is the context that I'm going to highlight in the next few slides. So the telecom internet service providers which are on the go. Sometimes you require some special communications during only certain days. Let us say Olympics stadium, Japan, wherever Olympics was done recently, only during that time they need communication. When the sports are not being played, all communications not required in the inside stadium. And so that is, of course, most of the Olympics this year, it was like only players were there and audience were less because of the pandemic. But in the normal days, let's say 2024 Olympics, there you would require this cell on the wheel, a small vehicle which is mounted with communication, something like a dish antenna, which would be just similar to how you get the communication for the broadcast media people, the television people. Similarly, communications can be established. But then in the sky, you have to do everything together, just like a satellite, which is acting like a with a transponder, giving communication facility to you. Like remember when Srimati Indira Gandhi was Prime Minister of India, she at that time onwards, India had a program known as Satellite Instruction Television Experiment. It means using satellites, classrooms were held. Similarly, telecommunications can happen using satellites, and that is what is drone can be designed in that manner. So basically the next three slides, 17, 18, 19, so talk about the technical requirements of designing a drone. Firstly, the functional building blocks of a standard UAV. will be the rotating wings known as propellers or quadcopter, hexacopter, or even there can be copter with 16 wings, and there can be they are also known as wings. And then there is a body, I mentioned fuselage, and then there is a radio communication, navigation, autopilot, flight controller, there is a camera, and there is a command and control communication link to take the data, telemetry and memory and sensors. Telemetry is what the drone communicates back to ground control station. Command and control communication is also to take data and whatever video you want to, using the camera, video camera, you should be able to gather that data into a separate channel that can be accomplished using the green communication of 5G using the HAPS, high altitude platform system, or by tethered UAV method. And so apart from the previous list, you should require something like a 5G, 7G, Bluetooth, transmitters, receivers. In case of 5G, we talk about 5G onwards, 5G, 6G, 7G. We talk about MIMO, massive antenna systems, and low noise amplifiers, and fast Fourier transform, and inverse Fourier transforms, etc., discrete Fourier transform. This person by name Fourier is a person to remember for life. We study about technologies. His teachers did not recognize his potential as a great scholar for the world, mankind to come. The teacher told his parents to take the child away because he's no good, because he's hardly able to see anything. But then that mathematics that he has built has become a standard for the mankind, so that if we draw any irregular picture on a paper graph, a Fourier transform mathematical expressions can fit that random curve into a mathematical equation. So that is the extent of explainability, and they are able to solve the issues of repeatability, etc. So without Fourier transform, there is no telecommunications in the world. So and so here also for drone you require this kind of infrastructures. So now I will talk about so in a flight of hours, not just distance covered that matters. So basically it is how many hours it can stay in the sky. It need not travel distance, but it may stay there for 7 days at one spot. That is also one of the requirements of a green communication tower like drone. And so we need to sustain the drone to stay there for a while, just be there and keep giving communications to the ground. So it's not that what distance it has traveled, but how long it is in the sky. We need to maintain. That is the challenge that we need to solve. That is the criteria. And the currently for aviation, we already have the 5G can give you 10 Gbps for the applications like aircrafts and ships, and 1 Gbps for automation applications, for temporary applications, or 100 Mbps for multimedia broadcast, multimedia application, broadcast multicast applications like IoT, and 10 MB whenever there is a and a device for wide area. So minimum it required is about 10 MB, maximum 10 GB. Or it provide the income that which area of problem to solve. In the case of the that is yes, put a drone ground, a drone acting like perhaps can provide communication to other drones who are doing their maneuvers. That is also one of the use cases. So my idea is to be able to split the functionality of this drone using design thinking, that is empathy with the end user's application, what application you want to drive, and how the functional split will help that happen. So there is a combination of battery and a motor and propeller combined together is known as BMP. It is only later ones will be obsolete. There will be either fuel cell based or combustion. More advanced tech and are less timely. They long duration, not more than 6 hours. Relationship between and so my depending on battery, like a weightless. So Jeff Bezos is a perfect example of drone autonomously flew without that and batting again detached itself and people came off from it. So like that, designed a UAV coupled with a rocket technology to make that weightless journey feasible. And so lot of work is going on in light communication and access. In India, even name of triple IT working on some of the personal area net technologies for your IoT, etc. And so, in order to take the journey further, we need to come for Indian science. There is a photonics department. Also there is mechanical electronics lab, and there is also knowledge. So when we think about the VP in terms of aspects, definition that means you are synchronous and ATM, that is air traffic management traffic management technology. So it is in tune with the United Nations mission of sustainability. And the group like a swarm intelligence, they are all connected. We have seen 1,000 drones not collaborating with each other. Operating system ROS built in, so that they know the relative distance of separation from other object, and they will avoid collision with that object. So that is how it is. And so here is a scenario going to happen. When you look at a big picture, can anyone tell me how much time I would like to pause for a while and then talk about these other discussions? Tell me, do we have sufficient time? We have half an hour time more.
Sir, you can carry on, sir, till 4:30.
Okay, thank you very much for the feedback. Thank you. So in this visual, you see there is a terrestrial network of a satellite supporting these UAVs, and in turn, these UAVs, because they are enjoying the support from the parent satellite, to help other drones. So drones are of different categories. The bigger drone, which is acting like a tiny moon, which is a high altitude platform system, which is called terrestrial network. So on the ground, we have a terrestrial cellular network. But sometimes there will be drone requirement. There will be a big drone in the sky and providing communication to the drones that are there. And these drones are being blessed with the support from parent in turn for cellular networks like Reliance and Airtel. So that is going to be the opportunity drone industry has to turn the table around. Rather than being a recipient of communication system for their existence, now you are answering the challenges of the lack of communication, or the communication bottlenecks, or the holes in communication in the existing telecommunication infrastructure. And as you can see here, we have artificial intelligence is also required. So those of you thinking that, oh, drone is not my baby, it is not my technology, so it is just for my hearing, I hear this talk. No, in order for you, if you are so much interested in AI, ML, don't worry about drone per se. You leave it to others who can do the drone aspects. You take up the data that they are generating in their command and control communication, whatever their drones are gathering data, video feed, you process the data, then using your all the things that speeches given by or the CNN and other programs, you can use drone for image processing and help in even also with the drone scenarios. And you can also combine with IoT and IoBT, Internet of Biological things like health, like bands, etc. Uh, Personal area network, PAN. We have a smart city in India. We have 100 smart cities, and over 500 smart cities has 20% share of the global story of the smart cities. Here is an example of, there is a tower which is like a smart city command and control center, and it is looking at all the things happening on the road. There is a accident taking place, or there is something. All the CCTV feeds, some of them belong to police, crime, traffic, or some weather related, or some all be structure of a smart city. You can have the And in case of any telecom fail, don't get communication landing of aircraft because similar aircraft. Okay, voice is breaking. Right. Uh, 1 second. Vishwa, come.
Sir?
Okay, is the voice clear now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now it's clear, sir.
Okay, sure.
Ah.
Okay, thank you very much. So we switched off a noise source. Okay, so basically this visual talks about two aspects. Satellite communication is that launched into sky and propulsion is gravity free, like a Newtonian first law of motion, and then non-terrestrial networks are like emulation of the satellites. They need not be like satellite, but they are just moving around. You see that there are geostationary satellites, there's a medium earth orbit and low earth orbit, and there are some high altitude balloons. In fact, as it has been mentioned by Professor Rangarao's talk, so high altitude balloons can launch this high altitude platform. Yeah, Dr. Uma Devi. Yeah. Uh,
Dr. Uma Devi, madam, kindly.
Hello.
Hello, sir. I can hear you, sir. Uma Devi, madam.
Okay. Yeah.
Stop
Yeah. Okay.
sharing,
Okay.
ma'am.
Once again, share. Yeah. I would share again. Yeah. Okay. Uh, okay. Meanwhile, do you have any questions? This can be a good break, and then I can continue for another half an hour. Yeah.
Participants
Yeah.
kindly
Can
post
there be a few
any
questions?
questions in chat box.
Yes. Okay. Now I will once again present. Just wait. Yeah. I'm sharing content. Is my file visible now?
Yes, sir. Sir, you
Yeah.
share the screen. Yes.
Okay. Right. Okay. Fine. So continue. So we have these scenarios. Then I'll continue more terrestrial, non-terrestrial scenarios. Then move further. We have a stratospheric airships. That is what is altitude platform systems that support for the cars, ships, and other things. So in future there can be something like a big balloon that you would have seen in the First World War, Second World War, slow moving balloon like looks like a big aircraft. They may still be used for these communication purposes going forward, coupling with the satellite networks. So this is a big picture of terrestrial and satellite network integration to provide a experience to end users so that their experience is not interrupted. Here is like a UAV getting support from a tower, which is like a Airtel or a Reliance tower for its backhaul. And using that backhaul, the UAV now gets empowered because it has a radio base station built in, and it will emit like a 5G base station, and that base station will handshake with the mobiles on the ground. So as long as you have a UAV which is connected by the backhaul, that is what is the connectivity to the core networks, which can be arranged through the macro base station using a beamforming tech or dedication to the ground. That is the kind of infrastructure. So UAV on cannot do anything. You need to empower it with a backhaul connection that can come from the laser beams or visual light communication or by existing telecom towers. You may have to add additional digital microwave elements there on the regular telecom tower, which is having antennas of wireless also. So here is where all the knowledge that you have, you may be thinking this is just exclusively a flying related. No, leave the flying to the flying people. Maybe I am from Air Force or I'm more savvy about defense or aerospace. No problem. You tackle the data that comes, and it has to be residing on the cloud. And how do you handle the data for supporting the vehicle to vehicle infrastructure connectivity for the autonomous cars? So already in future there will be no driver driving your car. Maybe in India it would take more than a decade for that to happen, that you can see it with your own eyes. But in abroad, already autonomous cars and vehicles are already in place for decades together. Heavy trucks are also being without pilots, or sometimes there is a pilot, but truck is on its own. So it's like a semi-autonomous as well. That requires a lot of cloud infrastructure and edge analytics. And so you should have a lot of sensors on board, and you should have a smart grid because you have a normal commercial industrial power. But then in addition, if you have alternative power sources like solar and wind and other technologies, that would definitely help. Because even today in big cities like Bangalore, we can have, as I'm speaking now, if my in my residence, if power goes off, my internet connection also goes off. We are dependent on the industrial power for internet access. So in an integrated aviation ecosystem where we talk about green technologies, we need to have the green smart grids like wind and solar and others, and smart energy metering systems, so that we manage the complexity of the green communication so that our sustainability is enhanced. So connectivity at home. So in a smart city, we have a smart home and a smart environment. So these are some of the highlights of that shown here. So here we have a 5G base station, and we have a human communication network, and that is connected to the drone. And we have a IoT network, M2M gateway, that is machine to machine. In fact, in India, we have a blueprint created by CDOT, which is a research arm of BSNL. Any of the researchers can write to the CDOT headquartered in Bangalore and New Delhi. If you write to me, I will share their contacts to the managing director and their research teams. They can give you blueprint of the middleware that they have developed for Indian cities, Indian vocabulary, and using Indian conventions and requirements for Indian networks. So why not utilize their hard work? They have developed one M2M infrastructure, meant it's a government department, they don't have commercial interest. They are happy to share their code to you if you want to develop an application around the Indian IoT and systems like that. And you can integrate with the UAV in this manner. So we have a 5G power, so smart agriculture applications, agriculture, surveillance, logistics, industry 4.0. These are all the some powerful 5G empowered UAV should be able to support in the precision agriculture, industrial automation, surveillance, or road surveys. There is also a concept of Survey of India wants to survey the map of entire India using UAVs than the car. Normally, you have a Google car with certain cameras fitted on top of it that is doing the road survey. But Indian government has envisioned that using satellite, that drones, you should be able to survey the roads and get better survey of India maps. That is the one program in pipeline, and you can look up to take up some things using a college project also. So communication technology in the drone requires you to look at these building blocks. The picture is a little hazy. I would ask organizers to share it to you. You can look up, and then I would just keep it for a while. Now, so 5G millimeter wave communications for the UAV assisted wireless networks, we can apportion that into radio propagation channels, multiple access mechanisms, spatial configurations, resource management, and security strategy. Each one is further elaborated into different aspects. So you have to be able to do some channel estimation, for which you require tools like a Keysight and other tested measurement manufacturers, and all, even MATLAB simulation. Our company, as it has been mentioned in introduction, we are generous to give license keys of MATLAB for 1 year for the students who are interested in running their own incubation or a startup, and we will look at their letter requesting me to to have that kind of license as a launch pad. I would request the US based MATLAB incorporation to provide you the license keys, which would be otherwise nearly like 60 to 70 lakhs when you use it for commercial purposes. So you can use it for your learning and do your projects nicely. So UAV assisted aviation and maritime communication may be the new thing of the future, where UAV is not just depending on communication, it is assisting others in communication. So there is a paradigm shift of its personality, that UAV will be, you require a UAV to solve the communication bottlenecks of existing networks. So here you see that one UAV is helping an aircraft, and that UAV is supported by a satellite, and it is helping a ship in the water, or it is helping a city situation where some existing base station also is getting involved in extending. See, the base station is located elsewhere, but this UAV is taking help of that base station and making the base station signals available in a remote vehicle, which otherwise the base station cannot provide. So this drone is acting like a relay and taking the signal from base station, passing it to the truck, and helping the truck to avoid collision and do its traffic nicely. So like this, the scenario of green communication using UAVs would be very interesting for you to work on these kind of various problem statements. So pervasive or a collective artificial intelligence, wherein you have light fidelity. The next big revolution in communication is not about microwave towers or big things that you see. It is all about light, the light frequencies, light fidelity, just like a Wi-Fi acting at a light frequency range, photons. So that will be the very big revolution that could happen, and that would integrate with the requirements that we can foresee in the near future from the drone network. Also, radar assisted Mitola radio, they have a use case. Edge AI, there is a BBU pool, baseband unit pool. Drone taxi, there will be a taxi service just like Ola, Uber. There will be a drone based taxi service in future, and there may be a lot of fog RANs, fog application processors, because there is something called a edge and a cloud, and there is a fog, and I'm part of P1931.1, which is an IEEE standard for it is known as real-time on-site operational facilitation. It is called roof computing. So we have a edge computing, we have a fog computing, and then you can say roof computing. These are the latest trends in the cloud. The traditional cloud, which is software as a service, platform, or infrastructure as a service, more importance is now given to edge analytics and the roof and fog environments, where the real data is generated. 80% of the data gets filtered out, and only 20% gets into the mainstream cloud. And that's a lot of action going on in how to filter the 80% data based on personalization, based on privacy requirements, and based on your project secrecy requirements or safety security requirements. And so this is the pervasive or a collective AI. I give an example. There is a road, and a car need not seek the data from the cloud before applying brake when a pedestrian is crossing, because that is not supposed to be the place where pedestrian moves. Autonomous car may sometimes make error of judgment, and there could be an accident, and therefore local edge analytics will tell that it is a deviation from the normal practices, and currently you have to apply brake, and then also inform the previous vehicles behind and side device, so that this application of its brake should not cause problem to other vehicles. That is where we have a visible light communication between the vehicles, and also across the lanes, not only in front and back, but your parallel left and right side lanes also, so that in the event of any accident, there is no multiple vehicles involved in massive collision of vehicles that can be prevented. and we can use this drone to help set up a emergency operation center. Suddenly you require blood or a heart or something life support critical thing, you can move it using a drone, and locally you can set up a small, like a vehicle mounted operation theater. Doctors can perform surgery quickly rather than waiting for the ambulance to reach the hospital when the critical time will be lost. So there is a small swarm UAV. We have a swarm of UAVs connecting and doing their job, coordinating, and multiple tasks of helping the ambulance and helping the city, helping the cars or agriculture, all the things there, but they are connected together, and they're all taking data from one backhaul macro base station, which is acting like a core network. And then this swarm UAV is taking the backhaul and then distributing that backhaul amongst themselves and then contributing to multiple tasks and gathering the data, giving it back to the core network. That is how it's a new system of green communication infrastructure using the UAVs, which is more flexible than the traditional terrestrial based cellular networks that we know today. Scenarios for UAV communication: you can have one UAV serving multiple users, and one UAV serving data offloading. It means that internet data that can be accessed from the drone than from the mobile network. That is called data offloading. Similarly, giving power. See, suddenly there's a new research area known as a wireless power. It means you don't need a power cable to put a device to charge. It can be wirelessly powered. So drone can wirelessly power some of the systems, and then it can carry some signals and backscattered signals like that. There can be multiple things the UAVs can do, and you should we take up each of these example uh, as your use case and build a solution. So Alice and Bob quite separated out in so in terms of geography. This UAV relay is communicating like a satellite, and so there are several scenarios they can see. And the cellular support of the UAV communication, we have several applications like mobile enabled drones or drones being applied for agriculture, military, rescue, mining, and we also have other challenges drones can solve in terms of energy constraints, channel modeling. These are all the challenges that researchers should take up in terms of UAV related requirements of a stable system to solve all these areas marked with red color: limited operation range, channel mobility, battery constraint, channel modeling, energy constraints, resource allocation, and spoofing and gaming applications. These are the areas using drone. How do you implement the solution that would attract attention of your Department of Science and Technology and other applications where you can apply for grant, and you have to apply advantages to like a low cost, flexibility, enhanced coverage, improved network facilities, less affected by nature, and scalability. Because a tower or any establishment on the ground may be affected by floods or some things, but it is being lightweight in the sky, it is less affected by the nature. It is more resilient to vagaries of the floods and other natural calamities. So we have real-time kinematics and GPS constrained environments. You can have number of drones or a combination of the regular towers with indoor areas earmarked like a high dense optical small cells, or indoor high dense optical RF small cells, indoor high dense optical and RF small cells combination. So you can have a combination of optical based and radio frequency based communications, and all of them can also help in the as a payload on the drone also. Visual light communication Li-Fi application processor can reside on a drone also. So drones can, whenever you're thinking about a drone, think about the 6G, because the regular 5G is more or likely to be for the regular smartphones. 6G definitely is a combination of 5G and non-terrestrial. Therefore, it can be one of the challenges of the 6G wireless is this supporting of 100% coverage of non-terrestrial network. That is what is the drone will be fitting into the theory of this particular thing called 100% coverage, NTN, non-terrestrial network, the satellites and aircrafts. So if 6G should be able to solve those areas, if the 5G misses the bus, but we have a 6G there. And then to implement the solution, we have got a real-time the RESTful APIs, representational state transfer, which is one of the web services description languages, which is SOAP and RESTful APIs. And there are some service level agreements and low latency requirements for some applications. And we have to have operations happening in high altitude platforms as our drone. This is the HAPS, which is around 25 kilometers above the surface. Then there's a terahertz optical communication systems like a VLC, visual light communication system, and maximizing the radio wave use of efficiencies in terms of number of bits that you can deliver over a hertz in a given use area, like a square kilometers. That is the spectrum efficiency aspects by using OFDM technology like LTE and 5G new radio. And resilience, redundancy, and recovery, network and servers, and should cater for the carbon-free networks. So finally, we need to achieve green communication, means that not using carbon dioxide emission in our methods. That is very much possible in case you use satellite kind of approach to the drone for communication. This slide is network slicing aspect of the core, and so this presentation will be shared to you. You can use it. So we have a spectrum sharing cognitive radio. There is one a licensed user and an unlicensed user. So drone can also perform some roles where the licensed user is not utilizing a resource as drones may utilize and serve some of the problem cases. And you can use the drone for line of sight interference or for various other applications as it is highlighted there. We have got a line of sight interference and data, command and control and the data, and this is the base station UAV, and these are all the different ground based user equipment, and this is the drone and the ground based user equipment. So how do you adopt these technologies is you should use Li-Fi, and Li-Fi brings a lot of interesting problem statements for you to solve, and some of them I highlighted here. You should be able to very good in modulation techniques, and you should use some techniques like programmable logic, process sections, FPGAs, and things like that to implement your solution, analog to digital, digital to analog. And integrating, mitigating the adaptations. So possible relationships is complementary, substitutable or independent. So basically, here we are talking about what is the world expecting you to do in the green technologies. It's a generalization. Ultimately, our green UAV based communication should mitigate the climate change challenge. What is the main climate change challenge? In future, the temperature of the planet Earth will reach with reference to a baseline set at one point of time by the global community for their international discussion. If it reaches beyond that by 1.5 degrees Celsius, then the ocean water levels will increase because the glaciers will melt, and there will be a lot of floods, and all the oceans will have the fish and marine creatures will have a problem, and our food chain, because we also eat, not that you need not be a you may be a vegetarian. Majority of the planet Earth, they eat fish. So for them, they don't get fish because the marine life is getting affected due to glacier melting. And even the seal fish and others, those who depend on the fish, they also will not get their daily food chain. So that is what is our green technology supposed to. And this is because when we are talking about a green communication, this one slide to tell us what is the grim reality of the planet Earth today. 2 billion people don't have electricity. We are like 7 billion. No, out of 7 people, 2 people don't have electricity on the planet Earth. Something like that. And 1.3 billion people are without clean water. It is similar to Indian population. I'm talking global statistics. It is like an area equal to India. They are not getting clean water in the entire earth. 2 billion people are without sanitation. And food also, 800 million people are malnourished. So we are doing a project discussion with the government today about anemia problem in India, and it's a big project. We are participating in discussion how to detect early stage anemia. So the 800 million people are malnourished today. Food production needs to be doubled in 35 years. And so by using all these electricity demanding or those which require air conditioning kind of technologies, we will not be able to achieve the results, because we have to increase productivity and then solve the challenges of increasing temperature of the planet Earth. So we have environment. 1.4 billion people are exposed to dangerous levels of outdoor pollution, higher number of exposed to dangerous levels of indoor air pollution, and vector-borne diseases. So when you have a equipment which has a less form factor, it will not be emitting anything. So the satellite doesn't harm you as much as you may be thinking that my tower is harmful to me. So there are people who are afraid about telecom towers. By green technology, even that kind of fear will not be there because there is no tower in front of you. So shelter, it may live in areas susceptible to civil strife. That means you need to provide a home and communication facilities. So the mitigation is climate change influences the natural human living conditions and social economic development. So green communication is the way forward, and the priorities of society's sustainable development influence the greenhouse gas emissions causing climate change and vulnerabilities. So here is a map of 1.3 billion people in the world without electricity, 2.7 billion people without clean cooking facilities, and we have million people without electricity. In India also we have some data. 289 million people are without electricity in the near to Indian area. It has been mapped here. And somewhere another 836 million people are without clean cooking facilities. So that is where our green communications can help. When you can have a classroom with your satellites, like drones are helping in classroom delivery, and then that can bring about a lot of rural economy development, where the currently only the urban cities are having all the facilities. Therefore, that way it will help in giving the agriculture and other knowledge to the rural people and education to them, so that they are socially integrated with rest of the world. So rest of the developing Asia. So these are all interesting statistics that a bigger picture, however, green communication can help. So these are all the other derivatives of it. And this is what is the World Bank report of 10 years back. Business as usual, 5 degrees Celsius, 2 degrees trajectory. It means that if you want to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, CO2, yes, then if you can reduce it, then it is better for us. The 2 degrees is a much better approach than projected annual total gross emission. It means that with 2-degree trajectory, you are decreasing the number of greenhouse gases. So the green curve is a better approach. And so by using this green technology for communication, you are contributing to this green curve than to the orange curve there by going forward for 100 years. That way we are able to achieve below 2-degree objective of 1.5 degree philosophy that world is having today. So possible topics for future is how various nations. So now this is where I would like to stop. There may be 2,000 high altitude platforms in the sky in India itself by 2040 to 2050. India may take 20% of the world share of the high altitude platform systems. Today, there was a news article that all the industries spoke to the ISRO, like BHEL, BEL, BEML, HAL, L&T, talking to the in space, that's a new private limited company created for ISRO. So very soon you will find this kind of approaches being chalked out, and we will help the rural to 6.5 lakh villages to be covered. Atmanirbhar Bharat and all, and then BharatNet. And we can have missions to the Mars and lunar. There will be hectic missions will be there, and you will all become PhDs. Whoever is attending, unless you are already a PhD, you'll all be doctorates by then. I think you will be guiding many youngsters. Education with the satellites 24/7 will be the new normal for future. And PMKVY in the year 2047 may be on a drone session. As I am talking to you, a drone may be coordinating connection between you and me. And NSDC, National Skills Development Corporation, Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. These are the kind of ultimate objectives. And thank you so much for patient hearing. And you have been doing wonderfully well, and it's a very nicely planned program. Do write to me, and you can approach your professors to get in touch with me. And thank you very much. I'll stop my presenting video, and I'm interested to hear your questions.
It was a very informative talk, sir. So participants, do you have any questions? If you have, please ask.
So in fact, this idea of UAV used for communication is already pursued by big companies like Google, Facebook, and others. There's a project by name Loon, and so they want to use some balloons, and so it's not a in a topic in isolation. It's a very important subject matter, as you would come across in your research. So have a nice, okay, carry on. Okay, I would also give my mobile number. In fact, my new email address I would share. And I am in the global talent for a US based multinational working from India. And so we are hunting for great talent, and look at your talent qualifications in various fields, and then recommend you also, some of you, when you want to be in Canada, Singapore, Australia, US. Get in touch with me. I would be of some help in your journey for international studies or research, etc. So this is my address: anam kishore.anam@edwarchitectonics.com. Any
Gowda sir.
Yes.
Sir, session is completed, sir.
Session is completed, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and sharing your valuable knowledge and as well as time. So we expect your
Thank you, Dr.
participation even in the future events.
Manjunath God.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank
So, dear participants, attendance link will be shared soon. So please wait for a minute.
Hello.
Yeah, if there is a question, Roy Chaudhary, please ask. Yeah. Jayanto? Yeah, go ahead, ask Jayanto.
Sir,
Shine.
Yeah, please ask.
স্যার আমরা কবে থেকে ক্লাস নেওয়া শুরু করব?
15 আগে এই যে স্বপ্নদীপ স্যার বললেন কিচ্ছু শুরু হবে না।
15 আগে হবে না, তাই তো? 15 সেপ্টেম্বরের পরে যান।
Okay, there is any participants having any question? Feel free to ask. So, have you guys received the form to fill? Your certificate will be generated, right? So, has that been shared to all the attendees? My alternative contact is my website I have given. You can be in touch for your research ideas. We can support you in getting you the license key as I mentioned. That's my email address.